Donald Trump dropping in the latest Fox News poll, yet his debate loss didn't hurt him as much as you might think. Karl Rove picks apart the numbers and how important that next debate will be. Karl, always good to have you.
Thanks for having me, Neil.
All right, let's talk about this drop in the polls. I was actually expecting more because I thought he did poorly, actually very poorly in the debate. But he didn't suffer as much as I would have thought. I don't know how this tax thing shakes out, but what do you make of just that?
Well, I think debates tend to confirm people's opinions. So even if your guy or gal loses, you say, okay, well, they lost that debate, but I'm still for them. So I think it was less the debate. There's so much information that comes through in that debate that unless you make a gigantic faux pas, it sort of has a minor impact for you or against you. But it's the coverage after the debate in the days that happen on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and Saturday of this week that matter, I think, almost more than what happens in the debate. And Trump did not have a good time, and it was mostly self-inflicted because on Tuesday, he began to go after the former Miss Universe, former Miss Venezuela, whom Hillary Clinton brought up his comments about on Monday night. He continued that dispute on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and on into Saturday, when this is unimportant, doesn't convince a single swing voter to be for him, chews up incredibly valuable time, and has him talking about something that's unflattering to him. So my suspicion is that while he made it through the debate all right, and the Real Clear Politics average, the race actually, didn't change all that much. In fact, it got slightly better because some older, bad polls got dropped out for newer polls just before the debate that were pretty good for him. My suspicion is that later on this week we're going to see that margin. She's ahead, and I think that margin is going to widen up a little bit.
Now the media is pouncing on all this tax stuff. How much do you think this hurts him?
I think it potentially hurts him a lot. Remember, during the debate, she raised this issue, and he sort of basically confirmed it by saying that if he didn't pay taxes, it made him smart. And on Sunday, his advocates, Mayor Giuliani, Governor Christie, both called him a genius for having done this. I think that's a mistake. It makes him sound like he's gaming the code. I think it ought to be more straightforward to say, of course, when I had business losses, I'm able to deduct income, counterbalance those losses with the income, and that's the way the tax system is for everybody. And if we didn't have it that way, then we'd be calling on small businesses and all kinds of businesses to pay money when they didn't make any money. And if we extended that principle to individuals, we'd be having people who lost their jobs still paying taxes even though they weren't making any money. So the tax code is the way that it is. If you have a big loss, you can write off that loss against future income, and that's exactly what I did. And instead of saying, well, he was a genius for gaming the system, because that's not what people like. If you abide by the rules, fine. We don't disagree with that. But I think he makes a mistake by sort of saying, like, well, he took advantage of the system, and he's smart enough to know how to do it.
Yeah, and journalists are not that keen on covering the intricacies of the tax code, or even knowing about it or caring about it. But it does make you wonder if he had released all this earlier, whether the dust-up would remain. Well, if he released it much earlier, it depends on what people found in there. But whatever that issue was, if he'd done it 8 months ago, a year ago, that issue would be long washed through the system, and it'd be yesterday's news if Hillary Clinton was trying to make it an issue. So real quickly, Karl, Hillary Clinton pounces on this in the next presidential debate in St. Louis. Maybe Senator Kaine will with Governor Pence in this vice presidential debate tomorrow. How should it be handled? If you were advising either side, by that I mean either Republican candidate, what would they do? If I were advising her, I'd say make a little of it, not a lot. Don't spend a lot of time on this, because this is not your problem. Your problem is, Hillary, people don't think you represent change. They think you represent more of the status quo. If she brings it up, I think you ought to say, you know what? Our tax code has a principle built in it, which is if you lose money, you can take those losses and count them against future income. Is Hillary saying that if you got losses, tough luck? If somebody loses their job and aren't making any money, they got to pay taxes anyway. Small business loses money, they ought to pay taxes anyway. That just doesn't make sense. And it once again shows she's a big government liberal who wants more money from every American in order to satisfy her big spending programs for her liberal special interest buddies. And 47% of the folks in this country don't pay any federal income tax. Yeah, but let's be careful. Let's be careful about that.
The slippery slope. A lot of those people are seniors who've retired. We shouldn't expect them to pay income taxes. Some of them are barely scraping by. We have a progressive tax code.
No doubt,
I don't think
Carl, it was at 22% when I was in grad school, and that was just 2 years ago.
I think four years.
Yeah,
4 years ago.
Right.
4 years ago.
You're on to
and congratulations on that degree from Rutgers. Really,
thank you very much. Anything I can do.
Masters in political communications.
Yeah, baking is tough.
Masters in communications.
Those muffins just right.
Exactly.
Carl, thank you very much. He always gets the better of me. You notice that?